In this segment, we will focus on the challenges faced by state universities in Florida as they deal with state government requests to hand over the personal information of trans students. We will also discuss the efforts of students and faculty from FIU to protest and resist these invasive demands. As we've seen, anti-queer laws have been on the rise in Florida, leading to increased scrutiny and targeting of the LGBTQ+ community. One particularly concerning development has been state government requests for personal information on transgender students enrolled in public universities. These requests have put universities in a precarious position as they must navigate the delicate balance between complying with state requirements and protecting the privacy and well-being of their students. So, reverting to my panelists, how are state universities responding to these government requests? In many cases, universities are trying to find ways to protect their students' privacy while still adhering to the law. Some institutions have sought legal counsel to explore their options and ensure they are taking appropriate measures to safeguard their students' personal information. Others have reached out to LGBTQ+ organizations for guidance on how to navigate this complex situation. Meanwhile, students and faculty from FIU have taken matters into their own hands, organizing protests and launching campaigns to resist these intrusive requests. They are raising their voices to demand their university prioritize the safety and privacy of transgender students and refuse to comply with these invasive demands. Through social media campaigns, letter writing initiatives, and public demonstrations, these students and faculty members are working tirelessly to protect the rights of their transgender peers. I'm going to reintroduce Francesca and Harold, who were both in attendance at FIU during the Florida International Student Resistance or demonstration on the transgender issues.
That was a very intense day. I chose to get involved with this particular movement. I'm a former student of FIU, and by happenstance, my last year of my senior year, I started my transition. So I had to deal with a lot of interesting new discriminations. And this was 10 years ago. And at that time, there were no DEIs available. There were no protections for me as a student. So watching all these students going out there and voicing their voices and wanting to be heard and seen, for me, was really an amazing day. You were there, Harold. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I had the privilege of being a part of something that really inspired me in a lot of ways. Seeing young people, really fight for their rights, fight for the rights of others, seeing them mobilize and activate the way that I did was very refreshing. I'm also a former FIU student, and I never thought that I would come back to that campus to actually be amongst queer youth that were really inspiring in what they did. I think one of the things that I really appreciated in what was going on was that they all know what they're talking about, and they're all fighting for the same thing. And it's not just a one issue fight. It really is an intersectional moment. And for those that don't know what intersectionality means, it's an issue that affects everybody, that affects multiple groups of people beyond them being gay, lesbian, transgender, queer. And these kids know that. And they were, and I say kids, they weren't kids, they were these young people, these young humans know that.
Yes.
And that was very inspiring to see. There were groups from all over the university. There were many student groups. There were other nonprofits there that were helping out. And that was great. We walked around the school. We went into the streets, which was sometimes a little dangerous, but it was great. And I had a dear friend of mine that she works at FIU, and a week before that protest, I was at their house having dinner, and she was just, very taken aback what was going on. She was telling me about what the university was demanding, what the university wanted to see all their emails, that there were other universities asking for private emails. And, she's like, I don't know what to do about this. Like, how do you respond to this when your job is on the line? So that I took her spirit, her concerns, her voice went with me as I was a part of this protest at FIU. And that was amazing.
This was a very thoughtful strategy on part of the state of Florida. Myself, I can't imagine somebody rifling through my records, but they were very smart about it. They didn't break any HIPAA laws, so they weren't looking for names. They were just looking for everything else but a name. And I felt violated, and I'm sure other students felt violated, and I'm very proud of FIU for standing their ground and saying, yeah, no, we're not going to comply, because there were other universities that just complied. How do you all feel about that? Imagine if somebody was going through your records, especially at school, your school records, getting your personal information.
I know I'm actually currently a student at FIU, and I completely echo the sentiments of both of you. I felt so proud, so empowered to see the FIU community come together and stand together in that way. Because while this moment, the bills are targeting the privacy of the trans community, it could be any other community moving forward. And we have to stand in solidarity at all times.
I have no clue whether it affects like private universities yet, but like I don't think I would feel very comfortable with anybody like going through any of my privates, my private, anything. Like that's just like it's just not valid at all. Like me as a young adult who goes to a college, I would want that to be private, something I don't want everybody to know. It's just very scary, the world we live in today, because what are they going to do with this information is like my thing. Like, what are you going to do with this? When you get this, when you got it, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to go forward and do something crazy? Or, that's my biggest issue.
Right. And transitioning is a very private matter. I'm a very out and open trans woman as an activist, but not everybody is that way. So to be targeted that way, not okay.
Yeah. Right.
Even with the de-identification of the material, it's still, I wonder also, what is the point? What are they trying to do with this information, and how could they use it to target universities or target populations? And as you said, Kai, I also worry about what the next step is, because it's always a foot in the door kind of thing. It's always what population is going to be targeted next, and which one is the easiest one for them to go after, and then who are they going to keep going and saying, well, you did that last one, so you should be able to be okay with this one, and it just progresses from there, and that's really scary.
It's like an open witch hunt. It's very scary.
Very, very scary. I do want to ask, do we have any questions from our virtual or in-person audiences about this? And going forward, as we continue to go through each segment, I want you all to be cognizant of that. Prepare yourselves on any questions that you may have. I also want to go ahead and ask Aaron, who has now joined us. Do you have anything to contribute to this segment?
Yeah, I'm so sorry for being the worst and not being able to be there, but I snuck over during my lunch break, and I'm really thrilled to be here. I'm a former high school teacher, safe school science, and supporting my students. And the main thing that I have to contribute here, I'm not an FIU student. It's some of the points that Vaughn made and others made, that this is where it starts. Where does it end? Right. And they have a strategy politically of going after whoever they think is most acceptable to go after. In the 1970s and 1980s, it was Anita Bryant who tried to fire gay teachers. And then that seemed a little bit like too crazy and a little bit too much like something that that extremists would do. And so there was a backlash to that. And then in the early 2000s, they went after gay people more generally and banning gay marriage. And now that's accepted. And now trans people are the punching bag. And, it starts there. Where does it end? What are they really up to? And why are they trying to make life as uncomfortable for people who face so many challenges already? What's their goal?
Are you afraid? How how are you feeling about this? Like, what's the emotional response?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 34 years old now. I'm in a committed relationship. My partner and I are talking about starting a family, and it's a scary thing that I don't know what it would mean to raise a child in this environment. I mean, there's enough complications in terms of, in my situation, it'd be a gay male partnership, but I'm well aware when I see them going after trans people that it's not like our goal is to make life uncomfortable for trans people and then we're pretty comfortable with everything else in modern society. The goal is to make life uncomfortable for people who are different. And what does that mean for my ability to raise a family? What does that mean for people I care about? It's very, very scary. And it's having the effect it's meant to have, which is to frighten everyone who's different. And then the question, I think, is what do we do with that feeling? And do we take it or do we push back the way the students at FIU have?
And I also think that when it comes to the administration, they're targeting teachers, they're targeting the administrative positions at these universities. They're bullying our educators. And if you were to refuse to give that data, what happens to your job? Is your job secure? Is there a way to get around it? It was so vague. And my friend, her whole thing is that she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't want to send this information because she's in a position that she does deal with, trans students and trans kids. And she feels that not only does it violate their privacy, but to then attach something that what if they go after my job? What if they go after my my status of being a teacher here? Where does it stop?
Yeah. So I'm going to extend this question to the entire panel. Why do you think Florida is doing this? Why is this happening here?
In a larger sense, listing for extortion and mass assimilation is nothing new to America's culture. And I mean, you got to start somewhere, but I feel as though targeting the youth is very, very sick because the youth are the future and these are the people that are going to create change for the future. Targeting their education is what allows people to come up in a world full of more hate and more ignorance to be less friendly to your neighbors and separate yourself from other people.
Thank you.
I think also what is happening with all of these different bills and laws that are passing, it's creating an environment of normalizing anti-trans behavior and thought process. So it's really basically trying to extinguish what I think a lot of activists have worked so hard for so long. I thought we were at a space just a couple of years ago. I was so happy to see trans youth expressing themselves, being themselves. It would make me cry a lot of the time, but now I'm crying for a different reason. It's already difficult to feel isolated and different, especially in a school environment. And this also pertains to parents that are LGBTQ that have kids in schools as well. They're also being targeted heavily. So is this the biggest witch hunt of all? Mm-hmm. People are afraid now. People are very afraid of trans people. And this has just been building up, building up, building up. That's why it's important for all of us to speak out, mm-hmm. speak our truth, and just say, no, we won't accept this behavior. This is 2023.
Sure.
So those are my thoughts.
And I guess piggybacking off of you, with the fear that they're utilizing, they're silencing the individuals who exist within the space, the individuals who support those within that space. And going back to what you said, Sayer, because they're targeting the educational institutions, we don't just go to academic institutions to get a piece of paper at the end of the day. A lot of people gain and develop and form their worldviews within those spaces, going from kindergarten straight to higher education. And so when you are preventing certain forms of thought from occurring on those campuses, then going forward into the future, you said it's 2023, what is that going to look like 1 to 2 decades from now if we're no longer allowed to have these discussions, these people are no longer allowed to exist within these spaces?
I I feel like our queer community, whether you're trans, lesbian, gay, we make up those universities. So I feel like if they're trying to take us away, silence us, there will not be a population on a campus because we help to build, we give them money. You know, it's like they want to be the foundation of something big, but I want to know like what's the foundation too. It has no. I feel like Florida, it's like they want to do something big to like, because I know he's trying to, like, Ron DeSantis is trying to go for president. And it's like, once you do this, what is your goal now that you have access to like everywhere?
Exactly.
Yeah.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.